Welcome to the On the Road with Mika and Sade.
All right. It is golden hour on
One.
We are on the road. And due to popular demand, as in one person who asked us to do this in English, we are recording basically this. We're going to have a conversation in the road on digital minimalism and social media usage.
I just recently read a book that my wife had purchased for me. It was called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And it was a book that explained about the current situation that we are in. And as I was reading it, I became really intrigued by how much cell phone usage and social media is affecting and actually taking our time and affecting our lives these days. And so I put a couple of questionnaires on my Instagram feed, and based on my friends. And first of all, I asked them this question. The first question was, how many times do you pick up your phone? Did you know that actually on your phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, if you go to the screen time setting there, you can find there also how many times you pick up your phone. And it is it's like they call it a twitch that people nowadays do. You know, you pick up a phone to look at your watch, you know, what time it is. You look at who's messaged you, or a variety. What's the news headline that's coming out? So it's a twitch. And there were between 20 and 320 times a day that somebody would pick up their phone and start using it for one reason or the other. I was like, wow, that's a lot of times. That's like 15, 20 times an hour picking up your phone. Do you do that, Sade?
Yeah, I did. Well, I don't as much. I think my average was around 50 last week a day, 50 times per day.
I had about the same, 50 times
which
a day.
is, you know, more than I would want, obviously, I think. So I have these notes now because I don't drive.
I drive.
Dad drives.
Yep.
So the question is, do you control your social media feed, or does it control you?
That's a good question. I came up with that myself. Yes. So the question is who is actually controlling who and what? And we have to, you know, be honest that behind the cell phones that we have, you know, and the social media programs that we have, and all kinds of apps that we have, there are thousands of people who are paid to make them more addictive for you and me, so that we would stay longer and longer periods in time. And but let's start with the positive. There are also positives about social media and about cell phones.
Yes.
Sade, what are the positive things about social media and cell phones?
Well, my favorite would be the weather app. I know what the weather is,
And my personal
without looking outside.
my favorite is mobile banking. You know, you can do your banking anywhere in the world. You can take care of your bills and everything like that. So mobile banking is really good.
I think my favorite part of that is the fact that I can move money straight from my savings account into my spending account while at the cash register, so I can buy all I want to.
And of course, the fact that you can also text your father on the same cell phone and ask him to move money. Yes, on your account. Now. So that's a great thing about.
That's a great thing.
Yep.
Contact with people, you know, far away, close by. It's amazingly hard to find someone, you know, at the amusement park. You're in the same park. And yet it's impossible to find the other person.
That's true.
Great things.
But even connection, you know, internationally, we have family all over the world, and because of that, you know, cell phones and all these social media apps are really helpful in keeping in contact. That is true. But they do steal a lot of your time, and I'm not sure, like, it's you can keep in contact, but I'm not sure about the quality or the level of depth of the relationship that social media platforms can give you. You know, they'd like to say that, you know, we're connecting people like Nokia used to, but the truth is that how deep are those connections really when you think about it?
That's an interesting question, because nowadays I personally haven't made any deep and meaningful relationships on social media, but people have, you know, other people have, and
I know there are people who found their spouses, you know, on social media.
Yeah, definitely. So it's definitely, we're not writing it off completely. No, we're not.
There are good things about cell phones and about social media that we do like.
Yes.
But the question is, who's controlling who is running who? And based on this, in this book, Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, highly recommended, by the way, as reading.
Yep.
They did say that one of the things that psychologists in colleges started noticing a couple of years back was this thing about how there were so much more cases with mental issues with students that were incoming, and they started looking back at it, and it said it started about 2011 and 2012, and it just exploded, the mental issues that students were experiencing. And they looked back at what happened there. There was no 9/11 there was no big drama or chaos that happened there, but the one thing that was found, that in 2011 and 2012, those were the years where cell phone usage started to become prevalent among young children. Like, kids would get their first cell phone around that time when they were little kids, like young teenagers, middle school and high school kids would start getting their own cell phones. And that changed the way they socially interacted. And because of that, one of the theories says that it is creating such a big mental it's issues of mental disturbances that are happening in these days and ages is ballooning because of the cell phone, and how that has changed the way we socialize and we connect with people.
Based on the questionnaire that Dad put out on his Instagram, a lot of professionals responded on the things the positives and the negatives that they personally experienced in social media. A lot of them said that they don't know how to be alone. They can't concentrate when there's someone in front of them.
This is true. Don't you see this happening? You're talking with somebody across the dining room table, across the coffee table, and they're constantly on their phone, thinking that something that's happening on their phone is more important, or something that is actually that they're missing out on something if they're not responding to their cell phone right now, the WhatsApp message, the Instagram message, if they're not on there. So they're communicating with somebody who's virtually there, while the person who's live in person there, they have a hard time connecting and communicating with, or thinking of them as being important.
Yeah, definitely an interesting point. Also, they said that it is bad for their creativity, and that they don't know how to be alone, as in just in solitude.
Solitude is a very important fact, and that's actually in this book as well. Solitude is actually the source of oftentimes our creativity. The time where we are alone, and we are afraid of that nowadays. We are constantly wanting to find a distraction on that, whether it's binge watching something, or picking up the phone and seeing what everybody else is doing, which is they're giving pictures, their best pictures, which is not the reality, the real truth. It's just their best pictures or their funniest moments or things like that. So it's not exactly the honest truth that they're getting there, and they're missing also the cues, the social cues that you get from facial expressions, from the language, from the body language, because it's just a picture that they're getting.
Yeah. I find that one especially interesting, the part on solitude, because I've been personally exploring that more recently. I listened to a podcast by Carrie Lloyd on silence and solitude, which I would definitely recommend. But she talked about how quick we are to fill our time and our silence and our solitude with something else, and how that can be a blockade to processing our emotions, to processing pain, and to processing life, and how that can it can become a block for moving forward. And
the other thing is also, it does take a lot of our time.
Yeah.
It does. The cell phone seal. I mean, and I would challenge you, just after watching this YouTube video, take a pause right now and actually go to your screen time. Not that we're doing any favors to you. We are actually asking you to watch this YouTube video. But you know, just take a pause and go to your screen time and see how much time you have on average spent the last week on daily on that thing. For me, it was like over close to 3 hours. But then I have my iPad, and I went on my iPad. I put those two together, and you know, part of it is work, but a lot of it is just actually wasted time that I use there. And it could be 5 hours a day, 20 hours a week that I'm doing. That's like a half a work week that I'm using on just that. And my scores are not the highest. You know, there were some people, when I did again the questionnaire on my for my followers on Instagram, and I asked how much time, and be honest, I'm a pastor, be honest, how much time did you spend on a previous week on average on your cell phone? The amount of time was staggering. There was somewhere from some people said, you know, it was from 1 hour, but it could go all the way up to 12 hours that they were on their cell phone. So they were actually living their lives on a small screen in front of them. And that is sad. So when people say that I don't really have the time for that, take a good look and look at the screen time that you're using, and perhaps your time that you have not been able to find is actually there.
Yeah, I was thinking about it this last week after we had done this first video in Finnish. My screen time was about 2 hours and 50 minutes, somewhere around there, in the last week, and it's definitely been higher before, definitely been lower before. But I was thinking about that, how much time that is per day, even though when I had seen it like, you know, 2.5 hours ish a day, I was like, that's not that bad, you know, that's fine.
It's 24 hours. What's 2.5 hours?
And yet, like 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's not time we're getting back, and it's not time I'm really putting into. I'm not working on anything on my phone really. Like, I might work on something, write an email, write a text message, but I'm not really working or towards anything in that time. And what a waste of time that is for me. You know, time is a beautiful gift, and so precious, and I felt like I was throwing it away.
Well, so did you put, what did you do? What did you do? Did you, I hear, or I actually know, I saw you do it, is you put time limits on how much you can be on, for example, the social media apps. Did you put those?
Yeah, I did. I put like on stupid things that I genuinely don't do anything useful on. For example, Facebook, 15 minutes a day, which, you know, that's just a waste of time. So there's that. On Instagram, I put an hour time limit, which, you know, for some people it's a lot. For some people that's not a lot. For me, my time on it, that's the most used app on my phone. And it's taken up the most hours of my screen time. So that's what I started with.
Sorry.
That's what I started with, was an hour time limit on my Instagram, and I think I have all of my social media and entertainment, I think, has like a 3-hour limit or something put together. I'm not 100% sure on that one. It's never actually come up.
So I did something even more radical. You know, the problem is not the social media per se. It's good. I need it for my work. Sometimes I need to connect. I have family that I reach to through social media. So in some cases, the social media is good. The problem is social media being on my phone, because I get distracted, I get stuff, and all of a sudden I'm watching this feed come up, and things coming up, and then the ads, and then the feed coming up, and stuff, and it's like, and all of a sudden 3 hours has passed, and 3 hours that I could have spent with my kids, 3 hours that I could have spent with my wife, 3 hours that I could have spent working on my car, or doing something with my hands, or preparing for something, and or building a deeper relationship with somebody. So that is 3 hours. So what I actually did is, and this is radical, but I highly recommend it. It's been now 3 days for me, and I'm feeling the withdrawal symptoms, but it's actually amazing how much I don't feel like I need it, but yet sometimes I feel like, oh, I should maybe just sneak back in. But I actually took all my social media apps off of my phone. All my social media apps off of my phone. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, those were the main ones. I took them, as well as my news apps, because that's the other source. When I looked at where my time was going, it was WhatsApp, which is mostly work or family related, but then it was Facebook, Instagram, and then then it started becoming Helsingin Sanomat, Yleisradio, the Finnish news agency, CNN, Associated Press, BBC, all of these news channels, Fox News, all of them started coming up, and the feeds and the things, breaking news right now. And you know what I realized? I realized that I do not need to be the first person in the world to find out that something major has happened, like the corona has now hit a new record level. It's okay if I find it out tonight in the news, and I've decided that I'm going to just watch once a day the news, and that's going to be it. And I've taken off all of my social media and news apps, which were my time suckers from my cell phone. I've taken them completely off. I have my social media accounts. I use them on my laptop when I need them for my work, when I need them for getting in contact with somebody or finding out where so-and-so lives today. That's where it is today. So I have actually taken, and I'm going for this hashtag digital minimalism. Digital minimalism. It's a good thought. It's a good book. You should find out about it. The important thing is also not that you just cleanse out everything. And I would just, this is my challenge to you, whoever you happen to be watching this YouTube video, is check out how much time do you spend on YouTube, how much time you spend on social media, how much time you spend on your cell phone. Check that out first and make sure that you're getting value for it. And if you're like me, you might probably say, well, it's not all valuable. I'm not getting that much value that I should spend 3 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours on it, that I can do it in much less of a time. I think that's the number one thing that you should do. Then you need to think about what you're going to fill that time with. Have meaningful things in your life to fill in that. All of a sudden you found 3 hours a day. What are you going to do with that? Now is maybe the time for exercise. Now is the time for reading. Now is the time to deepening those relationships and meeting with people. Yes. So this is the time that you need to. But if you just take off all the social media and you're like, okay, what do I do next? And you're like, well, my life is so boring. It's so empty. I might as well put it back in there. That really doesn't help you at all. So you need to think about what you're gonna fill in to that, what you have taken out. What is it you're gonna fit in? So Sade, what are you gonna do with all the extra time that you're gonna find?
Oh man, I do a lot of reading. I'm gonna do some reading, and I actually enjoy, whenever we go on vacations, I find myself enjoying doing puzzles, and yet I never find myself doing them except for when we're on a long vacation. So I could take up puzzling, and going for walks are nice. Maybe take up an old hobby like painting or something. I don't know. But the point being that just like when you do a detox, when you do a cleanse, you think about what specifically you are gonna eat, what you are going to put in your body. You need to, when you take a social media cleanse, detox, it's definitely good to think beforehand about what you're going to do with that time, what you're going to build, how it's going to build you.
Yep. After this social media posting that we're going to do, I'm actually going to go for 1 month without social media. I'm going to go 1 month, and part of that was, of course, taking all the social media off my phone. I'm not planning on putting them back on there, but we will report to you back in a month and show how well versed we are in conversation skills and all these other things that we haven't had time to teach ourselves in the last few years, because we've been hooked on our phones.
Yes, it's true. We're gonna find out what silence sounds like. Or that was my only thought there.
Yep.
That's the only one that came to mind.
Yep. Solitude. We're gonna appreciate solitude.
Yes.
Being alone with your own thoughts.
Yep.
It's good. That's it.
That's it.
So see you next time.
See you next time.